Hi, good day. This is Mr. Shadrack with the Shadrack. I'm coming at you with another NEBOSH question tutorial started for the NEBOSH National General Certificate students, and it is in line with lesson 3, chapter 3 in your textbooks under the heading of Health and Safety Culture. This again may have been the same PowerPoint that you all would have had, and again I would try really hard to stick to these presentations and make them just about half an hour long. I know the last two have gone more or less into close to an hour anyway. So what I've decided to do is just look at again maybe this one concept and one past paper anyway, right? So if you have this PowerPoint, it would have just been on the heels of a verbal written graphic, as well as the whole chapter there on safety committees. That would have been the last session, and so this is just on the heel of that, and this would take us into the next concept anyway. So we are looking at here the duty for the employer to consult with safety representatives. And as I'd mentioned before, that this is actually a requirement in the UK legislation, and there are two laws that require the employer to consult with safety representatives while disseminating information down to their employees. So just in case you missed that, from the last lesson, there would have been two laws. One of them would have been called the Safety Representative and Safety Committee Regulations 1997, and there's another one, the Health and Safety Consultation with Employee Regulation 1996. Now it's on the same slide. You may have to just go back to some of the previous slides, and you'll see the names of the two laws. Now it's again just at the end of this presentation, so you'll see it in a bit for those who haven't seen it yet. But what the laws require, the law require that the employer hire safety representatives to help them in getting information onto the employees. So what you'd see on this slide here is that there's actually two types of safety representatives, and they have different name titles then, or job titles. So one of them is known as the safety representative, and I've put this in capital letters for a reason, and the other one is known as representative of employee safety. So bear in mind that this is actually two persons, right? Two individuals then, one being called the safety representative and the other being known as the representative of employee safety. Now some books may have abbreviated, see it as being called RES, R-E-S, representative of employee safety. So I guess I'll tell you one time why I have the first one in capital letters is really because out of the two of them, the first one, the safety representative, has a bit more functions to do, right? And they have a little bit more power over the representative of employee safety, right? So I can tell you, I guess, as we get into it, appointed by a trade union. So when I say they have power, they really have like a trade union, behind them. And that says a lot if you know what trade unions do anyway. The second person, the representative of employee safety, is not a member of a trade union, and in fact that person does not even have to be a safety advisor or safety professional at all. That second person there can be anybody in the company that has been elected by the employer and maybe by friends with the employer. So with that said, you can probably have an idea that it's something like, I would have said this I guess in class sessions, that the second person here, the representative of employee safety, is much like a class prefect right? If you remember, I guess back in high school days, that the students may have selected they would have voted a prefect to represent them, I guess, to take the rule and whatever have you. So that second person there is not really appointed by a trade union, but that person there has been voted in, to represent the employees. And typically that person may be someone who, like I said, may just be a bit more outgoing, might be a little bit more bold, might not be afraid to approach the employer. So the employees would have elected that person, together with the employer, of course, to represent employees on matters of health and safety. So the slide starts off by saying both, let me get that back for you, both safety representatives and representative of employee safety aids the process of consultation between employer and employee. The employer has a legal duty to consult with both types of reps, and that would have been the laws I mentioned. So the laws, the Safety Representative and Safety Committee Regulations 1997, and the other law, the Health and Safety Consultation with Employee Regulation 1996. Those laws make it a legal requirement that the employer consult with both types of these representatives. So the employer must make and maintain arrangements to enable them and their employees to cooperate effectively regarding, is the word that is in the corner there, regarding matters of health and safety, right? Remember that there would have been some of those arrangements, right? The law says the employer must make and maintain arrangements to enable them and their employees to cooperate effectively. So what do you think would be those arrangements that the employer must make? Now remember, these are two individuals, employee, right? In fact, in some cases, a trade union may appoint someone that comes in from the union, right? The second person most likely would be an employee of the company. So here you may have two persons who do not meet on a regular basis. One may be a full-time employee. For example, let's say I've seen it in some companies, like where they have the receptionist serves as the representative for safety. So if you have that person is working in the company and in the safety rep comes in from a trade union, you'd find that the employer have to provide them with certain, let's say, arrangements then for they to fulfill their jobs, and that they'll have to meet with the workers, etc. So this has been the subject of a past paper question before. What would be some of those arrangements the employer must give these two persons for them to cooperate, first of all, effectively, and then to do what they had to do, which was represent the employees on matters of health and safety to the employer. Now some of it is in the slides, so I'll keep going a bit, but again, that's food for thought there, as not to just be a line from the law, those arrangements, right? So duties to consult: a recognized trade union appoints the safety representative, whereas election, which is organized by the employer. Functions of the representative of employee safety is more limited than a safety representative. Employer does have to set up a safety committee on the request of two or more safety representatives, but does not if requested by two or more representative of employee safety, right? So again, just showing you their powers anyway, that the power of the safety representative is more than that of the representative of the employee safety. Again, you can probably think of this as if they had two or more representative of employee safety, let's say one was a receptionist, the other maybe would have been a technician, and they request that the company sets up a safety committee. Now by law, it's actually good practice anyway, but by law the employer is not really obligated to do so, as those two persons would have just been elected persons. They do not have the union behind them anyway. right? Safety representative can request informal actions they might take against their employer. So this is a good point here in terms of the functions of the safety representative, right? So I have that on another slide anyway, but you can see here that they can actually request information from the government inspectors. Remember, the HSE is the UK, health and safety executive anyway. And if you read this carefully, they are requesting the information relating to possible actions. For example, like the issuing of a notice against their employer. They can request that information as a means of trying to maybe bridge the gaps so that the company does not get one of those notices anyway. But quite detailed in that person has that power then and has that right to request the information from the government HSE inspectors. Right? Functions of a safety representative, or maybe further functions, because we just looked at one on the slide there. And again, if you are looking at this, you may want to have an idea of about 4 anyway, right? I don't see it coming for much more than that, right? It's in regulations 4 of the Safety Representative and Safety Committee Regulations 1997. Again, you could probably download that if you wanted to take a full look at it. It's nice in that it has those sections. You can just click on it and it carries you straight to the section immediately. So even though it's a whole download of a law, it's nicely organized. You can just click on the line that says function of the safety representative, and you'd see almost the answers there anyway. So the functions of the safety representative: to investigate potential hazards and dangerous occurrences at the workplace, whether or not they are drawn to his attention by the employees he represents, and to examine the cause of accidents at the workplace. So again, that's a nice function: to investigate potential hazards and dangerous occurrences, to investigate accidents, right? To investigate complaints by any employee he represents relating to that employee or welfare at work. To make representation to the employer on matters arising out of the above paragraph A and B. To make representation to the employer on general matters affecting the health, safety and welfare at work of the employees at the workplace. Let's get that one back. To carry out inspection in accordance with the regulation, to represent the employees he was appointed to represent in consultation at the workplace with inspectors of the health and safety executive and any other enforcing authority. Right? So typically you see here, the person has the function to investigate hazardous, situations, carry out inspections, liaise with the HSE, etc. Right? So what you probably should know in the background is that typically this person is a degreed person. This person has a degree in health and safety. They may or may not be working for the company directly, but they would have been appointed to serve as the representative of employee safety. So you'll find here a lot of what, for example, this safety professional may do will fall in line with the safety representative, right? Albeit though more so for consultation, not just doing risk assessments, but really consulting with the employees on matters of health and safety, representing those employees to the employer, right? So to receive information from inspectors in accordance with section 28(8) of the HSW Act 1974, to attend, he or she attends in their capacity as a safety representative in any of the functions above, right? So I think if you're still having problems with this, you can probably think of this. There are some companies and even some like companies that are called the group of companies, right? So you have the Unicoma group of companies, you have Massey group of companies, you even have, for example, the banks, right? Scotia Bank, Republic Bank, etc. And what some of these entities have, they have that they have one person, right, that serves as the safety representative that is a member of a union. So yes, you may have different branches of, let's say, a Republic Bank or Scotia Bank, to represent the employees anyway. So the person may or may not be stationed at your local branch. I guess the fact is that they are stationed somewhere, but I guess on a monthly basis they will be visiting the other branches, and that's what I said. The person doesn't have to be directly employed with your company, right? I guess they can be maybe an external company, or maybe a company that has many, like many different groups anyway, where one person comes in from the group to represent the employees on matters of health and safety. Right, so this is one of the laws I'd mentioned. I just have the acronym here. This one stands for, and again you can find the full meaning on, I guess, the previous lesson, right? And those who have the slides, you just look through your slides, your PowerPoint anyway, and you'll find it there. Regulations 1996 does not enable the representative of employee safety. Now this is the quote-unquote second person. This is the one that has been elected. This, like I said, is the one that may or may not have safety knowledge. This could have been like, for example, a receptionist, a technician in a particular department, but they would have been voted in, or they would have been elected by the employees and the employer to represent them in matters of health and safety. So for that reason, they cannot, right, conduct workplace inspections, attend meetings, unless they have been given the permission to do so, right? Unless they have been given the permission to do so. So they say, however, guidance notes accompanying the health and safety consultation with employee regulations says employers can give elected representative extra roles as well. Now you have to think about this, right? I remember this could have been, like I said, the receptionist for the company, and what you don't want is that if he or she would have been elected, let's say today, you really don't want tomorrow when you come to work that the receptionist then is not at their desk, right? Remember, they have their job to do. This is something that they would have been doing. This is something that they would have been doing then, as an add-on. This is something that they would have been elected to more or less do, right? This is a full function in that they will have to do their normal job, and for example, once for the month, however so often when they have meeting, represent the employer, and I guess the employees in matters of health and safety. But it's not as if because you were elected today, you would suddenly tomorrow morning, know how to do a workplace inspection, know how, to look at statutory health and safety documents. Typically, your background would have been your background. If it is, like I said, a technician, a receptionist, you can get the idea that this person is more or less like a green person or a novice, and that they will have to get some training to get these done. So the guidance notes does say that they can do that, however they will have to get permission, and I guess maybe training to get some of those those concepts done, like risk assessment and accident investigation, etc. Right? So the employer must give safety representative additional health and safety information over that given to employees to enable them to plan and work. Safety representatives are entitled to inspect and take copies of any documents relevant to workplace health and safety matters. Safety representatives may also request information about planned changes in the organization which may affect the health and safety of employees. So this again is some functions of the safety representative. Employer does not have to consult with either type of rep on matters which are not health and safety related, which would compromise national security, which relates to a specific individual unless they have been given permission, which would damage the employer's undertaking, which has been obtained by the employer for any legal proceedings, right? So again, The limit there though would have just been that, you know, both types of reps, they should do their job, and their job is representing the employees as well as the employer, vice versa, on matters of health and safety, right? They are not then to abuse their power. Their limited information would really be health and safety information, right? So let's say, for example, the last point, which has been obtained by the employer for any legal proceeding. Let's say there was a civil case against the company, and again that could maybe affect the reputation of the company. If it's not safety related, I think that, you know, I mean, it's obvious to see that I'm not entitled to that type of information. If it's something personal, all right, so I've seen this one. If it's something personal, you know, because, you know, those persons have access to information, like you may find, I wanted to say which part I saw it anyway, right? But you may find places where, you know, the representatives may information relating to somebody's qualifications, right? So I mean, that is not really health and safety anyway, but I've seen that anyway, where somebody would have requested, you know, personal, you know, qualifications and where did you study and whatever have you. So those things are not really health and safety, you know, related anyway, right? So once it's not health and safety, all right, really and truly, that the employer does not have to consult with the representatives, you know, on site anyway. So both types of reps are entitled to reasonable time off with pay during normal working hours to fulfill their functions, for example, to attend seminars, to allow for training to fulfill their function. If the employer refuses time off with pay, both reps can seek compensation through an employment tribunal, which is the industrial court in the UK. Appeals to employment tribunal must be made within 3 months, right? So this, again, I could probably just mention to you here that this would have been, you know, online with the second person, the representative safety. For example, if you have, you know, like a conference, a seminar, you know, in the city, I guess in Trinidad here in Port of Spain per se, right? Again, you wouldn't expect that the representative of employee safety to suddenly not show up for work the following morning, and then, you know, when you inquire where they are at, you know, a meeting in Port of Spain, they are in some, you know, OSH conference per se. Now they can't do that, but again, they have to get the permission. The slide says that they are entitled to. So once they get the permission, they will be entitled to their normal, you know, full day salary while they are attending, you know, those seminars, etc. If, for example, they have to attend training, as I mentioned, the representative of employee safety would need some training. So let's say the person placed on a risk assessment course, say defensive driving. The days that they attend those training, even though they are the receptionist or the technician, that they have their work to do, but while they are in those training, they would still be getting their normal, you know, salary. So they're entitled to get time off. They are also entitled to get their normal salaries, and as well as for training to fulfill their function. Both types of reps can liaise with the employer on any hazards, dangerous occurrences, and general health and safety matters. Both types of reps are entitled to information containing the records on the RIDOR 20. This should really be around 2015 now, though, the most up-to-date year. They can represent their group of employees in consultation with enforcing authority inspectors. So again, not to, you know, say that the rest could not have done the last one mission, right? So the representative of employee safety can accompany the safety representative in matters related, you know, to maybe the government inspectors, but again, they just cannot, you know, just get up and do that. They have to seek permission from the employer to say that they can, you know, maybe accompany the safety representative, you know, in one of those meetings with the government inspectors anyway, right? So The last slide here, training facilities and assistance for worker representatives, right? So this one has also been the subject of our past paper, right? Again, the question would have been, like what facilities would the employer need to provide both types of representatives with, right? Remember I mentioned that one may be full-time in the company, the other one may be coming from the group of companies. So what must they have? What facilities must they have? So I have here, employers must provide facilities to safety representatives and can include notice boards, telephone, lockable filing cabinets, office space, key HSE information, camera, computer, printer, and the list may go on. For example, a meeting place, right? Welfare facilities, even though that is kind of touchy anyway, right? Touchy in that, remember, it is the duty of the employer to provide it for all employees, right? So it's almost understood that that they should be provided with welfare facilities, right? But I suppose you could add in there things like maybe PPE, especially for the second person, the representative of employee safety, that receptionist, that technician, who may not have full PPE anyway, right? If they have to accompany the safety representative in doing like for example an inspection, they would need to have full PPE, right? So I want to just summarize it there. It's almost half an hour, right? So here you have one of the laws for consultation with the employees. I would have referred to this one, the health and safety consultation with employer 96, and it makes it now a legal duty for the employer to consult with the employees. Now in doing that, it's almost as if they have two right-hand persons to help them in consulting with the employees. One of them is known as a safety representative, and that one has been appointed by the trade union. This person is a degreed person, this person is a professional, and again they have the power of the union behind them. The second person, the representative of employee safety, has been elected by management and to the employer. They may or may not have safety knowledge so that they could be quite green in what they have to do. They would be entitled to things like training and time off to accompany the safety representative in representing the employee in matters of health and safety. So please note that these two persons must work together, which is why a NEBOSH question would have asked what facility with, right? So that they can cooperate and work together. Simple answers could be a place to meet. You saw things like a cabinet, a computer, a whiteboard, etc., right? And all of those things would have been, I guess the cabinet is to keep their documents in a safe place, a particular meeting room, etc., right? Once for the month, or how often do they meet anyway, right? So then that could have been a possible question. Now there are more questions here, right? And it would be, I guess, beyond me to do all in any one sitting, and nor do I want to do all of your past papers anyway. I think the idea here is once you have the basic concept, for you to get into the past papers and give them a try. Right now, I just want to mention one here, and I'll again just getting there to the half hour mark anyway, right? So in addition to the facilities, one that has come before and a really common is that we are talking about the employer consulting the employees, and they are using these middlemen per se, right, to get the information across to the employees. A really good question to ask yourself is, well, what type of information would that be, right? What type of information the employer would have to consult the employees about, right? So that is a really nice simple question. And again, NEBOSH loves the simple. They may not bring, I mean, quite often they would not bring what does, HSCER stand for. That does not come, right? But seeing the whole concept here was consultation, at the end of the day, can you think about 8 pieces of information that the employer would want to consult the employees about, right? So I've said that about 2 times there now, so you can probably give that a try. I don't have that question though on this presentation, but I said I'll mention it because I think it's such a simple question. Again, if you ask me, I'll just give you a hint. The hint for me is really everything, right? It's basically all health and safety information you would expect the employer to consult the employees about. So if you think about that, whatever information you know, right, hopefully that you know some anyway, if there is a change to the information, you'd expect the employer to consult with the employees. And again, what they are doing for more of the summary here, they would be breaking the news then. They'll be breaking the news first to the safety representatives, telling them, I didn't quite want to give you an answer, right? But we're going to make a change to, for example, like risk assessments, right? Maybe the type of chemical that we are using, and we are going to use, you know, a different type of chemicals. So in breaking the news to the employee, so I was saying there that that they would use the information too, and then hear the views of the employees, and then make it. So think of it like that, right? You know, what will be of information the employees about, want to consult the employees about. And again, maybe it doesn't really make a difference because it is really consultation, which is the exchange of information from a sender to the employer, right? So I want to see if we could find that question. You would bear with me a bit, right? Really, that was on this presentation, right? And as you can probably close off the screen, it was another past paper, right? That I should have it, right? So I did mention, you know, sometimes I go back to the old ones because the old ones are the good ones anyway, right? Also to the NEBOSH site just only has one past paper at the moment. There's a new syllabus scheme, right? And so sometimes to get the questions we have to go back to the years, you know, before. So these are not on the website. What you will have to do if you want to get them, I guess, is and again, I don't have your registers at home. I left all, right? I suppose because this is something that you can stop and play again, you can probably just stop it, you know, and take a look at the questions. So it's still coming up there, and it should be, I think, September 2013, right? So as soon as it comes up there, we'll have a look at it. Should be the last question. If I remember off the top of my head, like I said, I don't want to do all of them, given I've also crossed our time already, right? But you can look at if you have any older past papers, you can find, you know, some good answers on those, as the, like I said, as the new course doesn't have anything, you know, just one past paper listed at the moment, right? So it's September 2013, and I hope I have to leave this session right there, right? So it's here. Let me just try to increase the size, and so maybe about 150, right? So it says here number 11, right? Let me just get it to the top there. So number 11, hopefully you could all see it anyway. You should be able to, because I am seeing it, right? So question 11, part A, outline the functions of a safety representative as stated in the Safety Representative and Safety Committee Regulations 1977, right? You know, so this is what I had on this slide, right? So you could, you know, this is 6 possible answers. You could write 6 possible lines, and I say lines because outline is about 2 lines long anyway. So you want to talk about things that the functions would be, you know, to investigate hazards, right? Hazardous, you know, situations, etc. to carry out an accident investigation. So those would have been like the functions of the representative. The safety representative, right, as stated in the regulation, right? So 6 of those would actually work. Let me just get to the part B one time because of the time, right? Describe the facilities that an employer may need to provide to safety representatives. So this is quite an easy one. You can pull this straight from off this lesson. Facilities that the employer may need to provide to safety representatives, right? So quite an easy one. Again, if you can give this a try, you can shoot me this on emails, right? I'm not in front of the computer 24/7, but again, once I get a chance, I'll take a look at them anyway, right? They didn't give too much answers. This didn't give too much answers at all. I'm not too sure if you can see anything there. But they didn't really suggest answers. They did suggest though that there was some confusion between the safety representative role and the health and safety advisor. I guess the way I had it on the slide was straight from off the regulation, so you can just get it from there and it should be good to go. Part B, the 2 facilities would have been what I had on the slide. Again, you can take it from off there. They did make a little note here of welfare facilities, right, being what the employer must provide to every employee. But at the same time, you can't give welfare facilities. You just have to specify maybe a type of welfare facility, maybe something out of the norm, then something that you can say is reflective of what the safety representatives have to get, right? So but we had it on the slide already. You can just pull it from off there, right? So I'm not quite sure what time I'm on now, but we'll try to bring an end to this one, right? So this will be your lesson from I guess for the 5th of April, no sorry, the 4th of April, right, 2020 anyway, right? Again, this same PowerPoint is not finished. That was just one concept and it has gone more than a half an hour anyway, right? So there's actually one more concept in this PowerPoint, which is training and the need for training, and I'll probably do that for you all next week. This could be used for both classes, in that even though the first class may have finished this, that may have been some months ago anyway, so it's good review, right? I think I have gotten a lot of homework, and those have me often busy, right? Sometimes yesterday I spent about 4 hours in correcting assignments alone, right? So if you have sent your stuff, just be a bit patient with them. I would get to them, right? And again, this is maybe just from one class. When we have 3 classes doing the same thing, it's a bit time consuming, right? So remember, we are not at work at the office. The office has been closed anyway, right, until we hear from off the government, right? So stay safe, folks. I'll see you all next week. Send the homework in still, it will get corrected, right? It just may have to go to the back of those who have stuff in already, but it will get corrected nonetheless, right? Stay safe, and I'll see you all back next week. All the best. Bye.